Hi, for today's class, we're going to be working from section 4.3a, and we're going to do problem 8. So problem 8 says, assume a and b are natural numbers and answer the following questions. So first, let's look at what we know. So we know that we're going to be working with natural numbers. So just as a reminder, those start at 1, 2, 3, 4, and go on. So this is just to remind ourselves not to use any numbers that are below 0. And to be doing this, we're going to be using the intersection of sets. That's just where we have two sets of numbers and we look for what they have in common, or the intersections of them. So we're going to be finding the greatest common divisor and the least common multiple. So for part A, we're doing for A, comma, B. So we're going to be finding the greatest common divisor of A, B, and the least common multiple of A, B as well. So just so we kind of get an idea of what we're using, we're going to use two numbers, and let's just choose like 2 and 3. So first what we do is we look at the multiples, or the factors of. So actually for the greatest common divisor, we're going to be finding the factors of the two numbers. So we are going to say what numbers times what equal 2. So for 2, it happens to just be 1 and 2. Are the only numbers that we can get. Same for 3, happens to be 1 and 3. So now we look at what numbers do they have in common. We want the greatest number. So for these two, it happens to be only 1. So that is going to be our greatest common divisor for two numbers. For now, the least common multiple, we're going to do the same thing where we find sets of numbers, but we're going to take the multiples of the numbers and try and find the first one they have in common. So we're going to start with 2, which just happens to be 2, 4, 6, 8, and then it goes on. And then for 3, we'll have 3, 6, 9, and so on. And as we said, for the least common, we want the first number they have in common now, which isn't 2 or 4 or 3, but happens to be the 6. So another way to look at 6 is, let's compare with the two numbers we used, 2 and 3. So 6 happens to be 2 times 3. So therefore, the least common multiple of AB is going to be A times B, which is how we got the 6. So that was part A. Now for part B, we're going to use AA. So we're going to find the greatest common divisor of A, comma A, and the least common multiple of A, comma A. So that's saying that we're using two numbers that are the same. So let's just use the number 5. But since it's comparing, we're going to do it twice. So we get 5 and 5. So now we're going to do the same thing where we take the factors of the two numbers, which again just happens to be 1 and 5. And now we want the number that is the largest number they have in common. So yes, they both have a 1, but that doesn't happen to be the largest. So then we're going to go with the 5, which happens to be the same number that we used for A. So the greatest common divisor for A and A is A. So now the least common multiple, we're going to do the same thing and take the multiples of 5 and 5. So we get 5, 10, 15, and so on. And once again, we get 5, 10, 15. And now we want the first number they have in common, which is also 5, which once again, 5 is the number we use for A. So the least common multiple for A and A is A. Now for part C, they want the greatest common divisor and the least common multiple for A squared and A. So we're going to find the greatest common divisor for A squared and A. So now we're just going to use two numbers. Let's do 9 and 3. So we're going to have A squared equal 9, which another way to say that is 3 squared. So we'll just put that kind of under it so we know that's how we get it. And then our A is going to just be 3. That's where we got the A squared and the A. So now we're going to find the factors again to find the greatest common divisor of 9 and 3. So we want to look at what goes into 9. So we're going to take multiples, so start with 1 and 9. And then the next lowest number, 2, but 2 is not a factor of 9. So then the next we'll take 3 times 3. So then those are all of our factors for 9. And now for 3, it just happens to be 1 times 3. So now we want the greatest common divisor that they have in common. So they have 1, but that's smaller than 3, which they both have. So we're going to use 3, but as we said earlier, A is equal to 3. So once again, the greatest common divisor is A. And now for our least common multiple, we're going to take the multiples of the two numbers. So let's start with 9. We get 9, 18, 27, and so on. And now we're going to find the multiples of 3, which is then 3, 6, 9, 12, and so on. So now we want the first number they have in common again. So we'll look at 3 because that's a smaller number. So we have 3, 6, 9. And 9 also happens to be in the other number. So we're going to circle it, and that's going to be our least common multiple. And as we said earlier, our a squared is 9. So our least common multiple for a squared and a is then equal to a squared. So now that was part C. For part D, we're going to find the greatest common divisor and the least common multiple for a comma b if a is a part of b. So this is for if a is a part of b, the greatest common divisor of a and b, and the least common multiple of a and b. So the two numbers that we're going to use as an example for these, so we kind of know what we're talking about, is 2 and 4, because we know 2 is a factor of 4, and then 4 is a multiple of 2. So we know a is a part of b. So we're going to use, so if a is the part of b, a is going to be the 2. So we'll say, just so that we know, off to the side, a is going to be equal to 2, and b is going to be equal to 4. So we're going to find the factors of the two numbers. So factors of 2 are going to just be 1 and 2. And now for 4, we're going to find the factors again. So start with 1 times 4, and then now the next number is 2, which happens to be 2 times 2. So now we want the greatest number they have in common. So not the 1, but then the 2 is the biggest one they have in common. And as we said earlier, a is equal to 2. So we know the greatest common divisor, if a is a part of b, is going to be a. And now let's take the multiples of the two numbers. So for 2, we'll get 2, 4, 6, 8. And then for 4, we'll get 4, 8, 12. And then we want the first number that occurs in common, which is going to be the 4, because 2 is not a multiple of 4, so then we can't use that one, and will end be the 4. And as we said earlier, our 4 is b. So that is how we know that the least common multiple of the two is b. And that's how we use the intersection of sets to find the greatest common divisors and the least common multiples.